In the last episode, Cisco got recalled to Earth with Odo after a conference with the Romulans there got a little bit kaboomed. We have evidence of a founder being involved, you see, and Cisco's the Starfleet guy who knows the most about them. The recall was only half true, though, according to Cisco's old mate, Admiral Leyton, and Cisco was instead appointed as head of Starfleet security to stop any more changeling-related oopsies. That's why, after finally convincing a reluctant Federation president to allow them, they implemented a number of security measures. These measures include checking all Federation officials and Starfleet officers and their families, which is something Cisco's own dad thinks is proper bollocks. Such preventative measures didn't stop the entirety of Earth's power supply being knocked offline by sabotage. That has Leyton saying this wouldn't have happened if they'd been permitted to go further, so back to the Federation president we go. He hands over full control to Leyton and Cisco, who effectively enact martial law over the whole planet. Leyton already has a plan for this, though, which is handy, and involves using a ship in orbit to teleport troops all over the place, and arming them with the big stockpile of weapons we had just in case. The result is Starfleet troops being deployed in the streets to keep order, leaving Jake and Joe to wonder exactly whose orders they'll be keeping. Cisco's had a little time to think, and he doesn't like how many questions he's left with. We still don't know how the Founders managed to shut off power to the whole planet, something with a not insignificant number of security features for obvious reasons. Odo adds another question. Red Squad, a group of elite cadets, was brought back to the Academy just after the power loss. This happened during a time when other units were being activated, and all cadets joined them shortly after, including Red Squad. Why bring them home to send them out again? Cisco decides to ask the source. An admiral at Starfleet Academy is concerned when Cisco mentions a record of Red Squad teleporting back there. After all, there wasn't supposed to be any official record of Red Squad's mission, the one Leyton suggested they use cadets to complete. Best delete the log now, and well done for spotting it before anybody else got wind. The Admiral signs off, leaving Cisco and Odo, who was listening to one side, with a significantly deeper mystery. Just as well that we have a contact in the cadets, then. Cisco goes to his dad's restaurant and finds he's now volunteering to get his blood checked after the power supply scare a few days back. The change of attitude troubles Cisco, but that's not why he's here. He's here to talk to Eggnog about Red Squad. We learn that Red Squad has started talking to him now, at least. He thinks it's because he knows Cisco and they have a lot of respect for the man leading the fight against the Dominion. Asking for their names leaves Eggnog a little troubled. He does know them, but he's not supposed to, membership of Red Squad being a secret. Cisco's not in the mood to dance around and makes it an order instead, which is how he comes to be talking to another cadet shortly thereafter. He's a bit confused by Cisco asking about their mission, as he was told by the woman who gave them their orders that there wasn't going to be a record, not yet anyway. A bit of browbeating has the cadet spilling his guts about the whole thing, him assuming that Cisco must already know. Besides, he's got nothing to be ashamed about. In fact, he's proud of their performance. The mission they were given went far better than anticipated. There was absolutely no trouble at all when they sabotaged Earth's power supply. Cisco's exchanged one set of problems for another. The kid's been tested to prove he's human, and there's no good reason for him to lie about doing a terrorism. Odo wonders if the people who gave him the orders were founders, but that doesn't make sense to Cisco. Taking power offline without actually attacking has only served to improve defenses here, which is the opposite of a smart choice for an enemy. But it is exactly what Leyton wanted. And that means another trip to see the President of the Federation, who's obviously not chuffed at these new developments. The idea of people from Starfleet doing a bit of the old terrorism is a difficult one to swallow, despite admitting the result is what Leyton had called for in the first place. It's not helped by Cisco having no real proof. If Cisco can provide that, the President will do something, or try to, depending on how deep the rot has gone by that point. The best option Cisco has right now for proof is the cadet he spoke to. A slight problem, Eggnog says he's disappeared. That might have something to do with Admiral Leyton, who turns up instead. He at least has the courtesy to not deny what he's doing. The Dominion is bloody dangerous after all, so somebody's got to protect the Federation. That's why he brought Cisco here, as he is genuinely the best man for the job. That and the hope of persuading him to join this little military junta Leyton's making. Seeing that it's not working, he instead tries to pull rank, reminding him Starfleet ceases to function if you don't follow orders, which is an argument that falls apart when you remember Leyton is supposed to take orders from the President. Cisco seems of the same mind and tells him to eat a big barrel of dicks, which is why Leyton removes him as head of security and tells him to bugger off back to DS9. As days go, it would struggle to get any worse, so of course the universe finds a way. Chief O'Brien finds him sitting in the gardens of Starfleet Command and starts a conversation, except it's not O'Brien, of course, because it can't be, he's on DS9. The Founder pretending to be him is just here to have a bit of a gloat and try to spread some more of that fear they use to control people. This thrust comes in the form of telling him there are just 4 Founders on Earth. That's all they needed to bring the planet to where it is now, and they didn't even do most of it. They didn't need to. Fear drives solids to do such things to themselves. A thoroughly dispirited Cisco is sitting in his dad's restaurant, unsure what to do. Joe knows his son, though, and the pep talk about thought being useful only when it's followed by action does the job. That's why he calls Kira, using methods Starfleet won't be watching, and tells her he's got something he wants her to do regarding the wormhole. Back to Starfleet Command we go, where this lad is patrolling without a partner, but let's ignore that for now. Cisco and Odo are in the former's office, though I suppose it's not technically his anymore. Odo's there to bypass Starfleet security using tricks learned from Quark, and we discover Leyton has been moving around rather a lot of officers. They're all people he served with, and they're all being put into positions of importance. There are another batch of transfers coming up, and they're set to happen a day before the Federation President gives a speech. Odo feels the same way as plain simple Garak does about coincidences and suggests they're connected, so Cisco grabs a copy of the transfer details. It finishes copying just as they're interrupted by Bentine, who's been promoted to captain of the ship that brought them here and has stayed in orbit. She'll be taking command on the day those transfers are made. Cisco says he's thinking of taking some leave, so he'll still be around for the ceremony. Leyton can't very well stop him having a holiday, can he? In short, yes. Cisco goes back to the President's office to find it's already occupied by Leyton and Bentine with some mates. A quick check of Cisco explains why they're here, to prove to the President that Cisco is a changeling. Quite how the test was faked is irrelevant. Leyton says he'll let Cisco out in a few days anyway, so what does it matter? He just needs Cisco out of the way while he removes the President and makes a speech to all those scared citizens about why this was necessary to keep them safe, just until the Dominion ceases to be a threat, of course, however long that takes. Cisco's incarceration is short-lived, though, as Odo breaks in and frees him. He's been busy while Cisco was locked up and called Kira. She's on her way in the Defiant and says she found what Cisco wanted, including the officer who did it. Cisco sends Odo to warn the President about the imminent coup, while he goes to see an old friend. For a man having a weapon pointed at him, Leyton's not that arsed. He's not even bothered that Cisco can prove he faked the wormhole shenanigans. Kira found the officer who did it using the relay on the other side of the wormhole, an officer who says Leyton ordered him to, and she's bringing him here in the Defiant, but Leyton tells Cisco that she'll never arrive. He sent Bentine off in her new ship to intercept them, and he told her they were all changelings. Bentine chooses to call the Defiant first and order them to stop, suggesting she's not stupid enough to believe Leyton, but that doesn't stop her opening fire in the end anyway. Kabooms happen, and rather more than they should have done based on their opponent. O'Brien thinks they've had some upgrades, which means we might not be able to outrun them. That leaves shooting back, so we do. The firefight results in a call from Bentine back to Leyton. The Defiant is a bit tougher than anticipated, and she can't disable it. She hesitates at the order to destroy it, instead not helped by Cisco making it clear she'll be committing murder, though Leyton tries to power through it by sheer force of rank. It fails, and Bentine stops shooting, possibly influenced by her own ship being all kinds of fucked up. She has at least still got one, though, so you could argue she did a better job as captain than Cisco's first attempt in the pilot episode. Worf calls Cisco to let him know Bentine's not pooping at them anymore and they're on their way. Leyton threatens to make a final stand, saying he and those involved in the coup can still fight. Cisco talks him out of it, though whether that was due to being told this is what the Dominion wants, or having it explained that his other support isn't going to be any more loyal than Benteen was, is left to the viewer to decide. We're back in Joe's restaurant, and he's watching a fair portion of his clientele for the last few days teleport away. It's preferable, though, he thinks. Things didn't feel the same with those weapons everywhere. Odo is concerned that his people are still here, and so is everybody else present, but Cisco's taken Imposter O'Brien's words on board and thinks letting fear win will do the job for them. Cisco, Jake and Odo teleport away after an offer to let Joe start a new restaurant on DS9's promenade is declined, so we'll leave Joe to welcome his old customers back until the next adventure. It's a funny thing, fear. There's a strong crossover with hate, a duet that can take mostly rational, reasonable individuals and turn them into ones who are willing to believe that trans people are responsible for the price of eggs. Both rob the target of logic, replacing it with emotion, all the better to be controlled. The playbook is simple. Take a bad situation, or create one, and blame it on something in order to give yourself more power, more control. The resulting knee-jerk reaction gives the public solace that something is being done, regardless of what it actually is. We sell our freedoms for the promise of protection, convincing ourselves that the steel toe-capped boot on our neck is just another layer of armor against the enemy we've been told to fear and hate. It's a topic we've covered on here before, of course. Kai Sin, that most Delphic of douchebags, used exactly the same tools in breeding fear and hatred towards the Federation. They're coming for your way of life. Drastic action must be taken to prevent it. Sacrifices made to keep us strong. Only I can save us from this threat. Just like Admiral Leyton, perhaps she's even made herself believe it. And that's the thing. Admiral Leyton does believe he's doing what's right, or at least wants to believe it. He thinks he's the only person who can protect us from ourselves, and if he needs to lie to us, to order sabotage, to kill, because he has killed. Think about it. Power loss to an entire planet. How many teleportations failed as a result? How many medical emergencies couldn't be reported or responded to? How many people fell downstairs because the lights went out? Make no mistake about this, Leyton ordered mass murder to seize power. His kill count was higher than any changeling on Earth long before he ordered Benteen to fire on the Defiant. To save us from monsters, he became a greater one. And people were fine with it, at least for a while. Something was being done, after all, and that reassuring buzz of activity distracts us from the cost. Even Cisco was carried up in it at the start, but his role provides the lesson here. Even if you think it's right, don't stop asking questions. People who abuse their power will only be held to account if we do the holding. They are either too far gone to see it, or didn't care in the first place. Leyton himself shows as much with a few lines here. We've already pointed out the hypocrisy in Leyton telling Cisco to follow the chain of command in the same breath that he ignores it. There's another towards the end that shows how blinkered he's become. Don't kid yourself, Ben. This Pandora's box of yours, we're opening it together. That's akin to saying those who died in the Borg attack of Wolf 359 would have survived as drones if they simply hadn't fought back. To argue that resisting something wrong makes you complicit in the result is the thinking of an abuser. Look what you made me do. Now, I know the main thrust of these two episodes is that people will allow themselves to be led into exchanging liberty for reassurance, real or imagined. I've no doubt there are plenty of analyses that focus on this, and even consider Admiral Leyton to be a victim of the very same fear and hate that he used to manipulate others. I don't deny there's an element of truth in that conclusion. None of which absolves anybody involved in this from their actions. Fear and hate can motivate us to do awful things, but we're still the ones who did them. Refusing to accept our part in that only serves to make a repeat more likely and with ever-increasing consequences. It's only a lesson if you learn from it. Before we go, an apology to those of you who've been relying on me to point out members of the Babylon 5 crossover club. It was one of you lot that reminded me Admiral Leyton, played by Robert Foxworth, was General Haig in the other place. In fact, his appearance in this story prevented him from reprising that role. The character was instead killed off and replaced with Major Ryan, played by Bruce McGill, who would himself make the Trek crossover a few years later by being Time Cop Braxton in Voyager. It's a particularly inexcusable oversight on my part, as Bruce McGill would give us perhaps Babylon 5's best-known blooper as a result.
Where's General Haig?
General Haig is doing Deep Space Nine. It seems he was double booked by his agent and there was nothing to be done. So you'll have to do with me, sir.
End of episode. Are you doing this on purpose?
It was an accident.
You accidentally set Trevis on fire?
Yes.
With a flamethrower?
Yes.
How'd you even use it? We've not got opposable thumbs.
I don't know. It just sort of happened. 1 minute I'm looking at the interesting pipe thing. The next Trevis is screaming and running around setting the forest on fire.
Christ on a bike. How are we supposed to make it to end the season if you keep buggering up storylines?
You're acting like I'm doing this on purpose. Okay, I'll admit the last one was on me, but this was a legitimate oopsie on my part.
You understand what this means, don't you?
No, he wouldn't dare.
You've left him no choice, son. We were scraping barrel with a holodeck story as it was.
He can't. He hates them even more than we do.
It's the only thing we've got left. The next story'll have to be time fuckery.